That is pretty cool. Today is 5th of February 2026, Thursday, and with that, let's begin. Today, what I want to do, at least, or like at maximum, or at least the direction in which I want to make progress, is to write some APIs or like functions, which would be used by other functions on the backend to do operations on the database. And yep, that would be the goal for today. See? And yes, yesterday I was looking at some things, and so instead of using the native API given to us by why do we have this random folder here? Instead of using the native SQL API given to us by Bun, we will be using the SQL library here, Postgres library. Here we just have to give everything, and yes, the password is like literally visible here, which is fine because I will create a new database for everything. And I was going through the database also yesterday, and I found a like mistake. Database visualizer. Uh, Visualizer. This one. Draw SQL. We were using this one yesterday. Get started. Yes, we did. Your diagrams. Yes, there is a chess database. Yep, this one. We ended up like deciding that these tables would be the one that we're using, but there was like flaw or redundancy, you could say, in the ratings table because after each game we don't have to have a time because time is there already in the rapid in the games data, and also we would need a rating for both the players after the game. And yep, that is it. That, yes. And shit, but if that is the case, we won't be able to index in the rapid in the ratings given a user ID. If we do want to index into ratings just from a user ID, we will first have to go through the games, find out all the game IDs which the user has played, and then go to ratings and find all the rating changes in those games, and also match that for every game ID that we get from the games, we have to see which player white or black was the player playing, which player he was playing or she was playing, and see that rating. So shit. So even though if you were to add player IDs, white player ID and black player ID directly into rapid ratings, that would increase redundancy, but that would increase speed, and we would rather find speed instead of database. And I think that is a nice choice because yep, there is just extra logic which you can avoid by directly storing the IDs in the ratings section. Hello. Yep. And yes, this is working. I will be creating a class for this data, and this class will have static sections, static functions, so that anyone can call these functions on the class rather than being a part of the object. And that is pretty cool. Actually, pretty cool. And yeah, shit, this has to change a little bit. White rating, black rating, and we can remove time. We can remove time. Yes, we can like legit remove time. We don't need time. White ID would be an integer, and black ID would also be an integer. Not a big int, but 10 integer. Cool. Yep, and the same things for rapid and other things. Okay, so let's write a uh, yep, let's write a SQL script which can be given in as like which can be given into the database to create all these tables. So yep, that is going to be cool. Wait, source cd source, and here common folder, uh backend folder, and front end folder. Makes sense enough. And these things would go into the backend. Source, backend, and their database. Everything related to database will go there. And end, source, backend, database, and setup.sql, create table user, where we will have an ID which is going to be an N, and we will have a user name which is going to be a varchar, and a hash password varchar. And apart from that, user friends, yep, we need with friends. User 1 is going to be an int, and user 2 is going to be an int, and here foreign key user 1 references user ID, and also foreign key user shed user 2 references ID. Okay, create table rapid game or games, let's say. Okay, we will have s at the end of these things. Users, friends, games. Cool. Game will have ID. Games will have ID. Moves going to be text, and white ID is going to be an integer. Black ID going to be an integer, and winner ID going to be an integer. And do we need anything else? No, we don't need anything else. Game ID, game link, and time. Game link and time, and that would be it. Game link, which is going to be a varchar, and then time, which is going to be a time span. And cool. And also let's declare some primary keys. This is a primary key, and here this is a primary key, and here we have a foreign key, which is white ID is a foreign key with references user ID. Black ID and winner ID. Cool. That is for rapid games. We also have other games, rapid bullet games, and blitz games. Cool. And then rating, creatable, rapid ratings. Yep. White. Rating of the white player after the game, rating of the black player after the game, and game ID is an int, and we do not need time, we need white ID int and black ID int. Yep. And foreign key, foreign key, white ID is foreign key, which references shade. It's we also have to tell which game is white ID references user ID and foreign key, black ID references user ID and foreign key, game ID references rapid games ID. Here substitute rapid with bullet, and in this whole range substitute bullet with blitz. Great. That that seems to be it. That seems to be it. Now this thing is going to be imported, and how do we write a script in bun? How do we write a script in bun? Hello, cat shit. Eh, Screen also okay. That is like a double messed up. Screen is not working and camera is also not working. That is like actually double messed up. Mm, okay, I guess camera is not working because I have not updated my laptop. Now it is probably working. Yes, it is. The laptop forgets that there is a uh, phone to take input from. Okay, now we have to look how to create a like little script in bun, not how to uh, in bun. When we run bun run something, then that should run bun. Yeah, I don't actually know what is the name of that thing. Like we have commands here, bun run this, bun run that. We have all those commands here. How to create or run command. Okay, bun run command. Bun bun run. Yes, instead of doing this, we just write define a script in yes define a script in package dot json scripts. Okay, we can just say this scripts in package.json eight spaces actually look kind of bad. I guess I should change to four spaces. Four. That might be a better idea here. And does it work? Nope, it does not work. Okay, scripts. How double comma and yes, okay. So one run back or just yes, backend, which would mean one run go to dot slash src slash back end slash index dot ts file we will have there, and that will run. Yep. Ah, cool. That is cool. If we do one run backend, no folder found, index dot ts, no module. Cool. And instead of backend, that back would be much better. Ref requests dot ts source and back backend uh, end dot ts import postgres from postgres and first PSQL equals postgres. Call this where the first argument is going to be something and the second argument is going to be something else. Yep, it was Postgres library, postgres.js. Why do you work with Mac? Any specific reason added to package.json file? Yes. And a script or something? Yep. And there should be already. It was empty because I created a blank project. And why our shit lab camera? My bad. I work with Mac because I have MacBook. Like, yes, it seemed like a right option at the time to buy a MacBook. I didn't know anything about Linux or anything, so and now I'm stuck with it till I get a job and buy a better laptop. Okay, Postgres library. Linux would be like actually pretty cool if I were to be able to use Linux. Omark would be like actually cool. Here, all this has to go there. The database like URL comes here. Even the test database with the leaked password. Login and logged in. Cool, it is running. And what are these things? Host. Uh, host is this thing. And then port is 25392. Okay, it knows. Database avian. No, shit. Chess with a small c. And username AVNA admin. Cool. And password you will have to see. Shit. Data class, we call it data, and then I guess the camera is not, yeah, I will just hide the camera. That is fine. Yes, but yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that one. Because it was not working, but Postgres one is working somehow. So yes, I will not be using that one. And don't like Omarki, it literally goes against the ideology of Arc. Like you want everything built by default, and there are thousands of distros. Wait, I mean, but the built thing that you do get is pretty cool. And if you want to change anything, you can just change it to whatever you want. And if you do not like Omarki, what do you actually use? Do you not use a pre-built distro yourself, or have you built your own distro and fill everything and read from that? Yes, which I will do in private when I find like I set up my the actual database which is going to be used. And there is a thing in GitHub where we can add variables to our repository which are going to be accessible by the code, but they are not visible here. I think it is somewhere here. Actions, rules, tags, environments, I think maybe. Yep, we can add environment variables here and they can be accessible by the code so that you are not pushing your variables, your .env variables here, which is pretty cool. Just build it from scratch. Wait, no, I'm not going to build it from scratch. I don't know enough. And no, I don't have that much energy. Oh, by the way, installing every, at least I know what they are thinking I've installed, so I know what broke. Shit, that is commendable. Because it was not working. Once inbuilt one was not working. But this is working, so that is cool. And static version, async, just a simple, not get, but setup. This doesn't take in anything. Export data and PSQL call share. We also have to read that file. How do we read file? There is the fs library, fs dot read file or something like that. Fs dot share, how to read file in one, read file as a string, one file IO. Okay, one dot file relative to CWD, current working directory, or yes, dot text, get the contents as a string. Okay, and we have to do await here. That is fine. So one dot io, one dot file dot slash database setup dot SQL, and then cons commands await file dot text. Must either be a valid promise or contain file from, must either be a valid promise. So what does this thing return? It is not even a promise. What? Yesterday when I was doing this, await was working. Post rest or SQL. Define the how the helper behave. Rest. Return a helper object usable as a tagged template. Console.log. This whole thing, whatever it is. And yep, that seems good enough. Wait, in all of this should go in the database thing, database.ts. Shit, harpoon. Okay, and here import data and data dot setup run back and error. Cool. Shit. Let's go. Directory. This no such file or that is messed up. Shit. I think that is because okay, shit. I think that is because this path is relative to the database folder, but the database. Okay, shit. Okay, okay. Makes sense. Makes sense because I copy pasted. Okay. Now it should be cool. Run back and no such file or directory. That is messed up. And why so many of them? Run back. Okay, that is pretty cool. That is matrix. No such file or directory. Why open this? Let's just print the thing then instead of running the command. Wait, what? Wait, that is bad. Just in case. Run back and we don't see the file printed. Run back and no such file or directory dot setup.sql. Why we are calling mm, setup.sql is literally here. Okay, because these paths have to be relative. Okay, we have to make these paths absolute and not relative and absolute given the main folder from which we are calling these functions. So if I were to do go back, 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 yes, that this would be the place from which we are calling the functions. Backend, database, and here we have the file. We can delete all of this. And I think now we would be cool. Yeah, I think now we would be good. But run back and yep, we do read the file, so that is cool. And we did get a lot of things returned. Yep, content of the file, the whole SQL script, so that is cool. Now the db the distro look and feel. Nah, I'll just use Linux when I can. Some TS without type annotations using TS just for LSP. I mean, like I'm building, like give me some time, right? I will write the interfaces and everything. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out how to make SQL queries. So that will come. Use JS file IO instead of bun. Use, what do you mean JS file IO? There is no JS file IO. Bun or your node version is, bun or node is the thing that is providing you IO. There is no native IO in JS. Use import and use fs, and then fs is a node thing, and fs might also be here with bun, but bun has given like better things. uh, I think fs also comes with bun. Yes, for sure it comes with bun. Yes, bun comes with fs, built-in support for fs file system modules. Yep. This was for compatibility with node. Wait, where is fs? Node, fs node compatibility. Yep, it is for compatibility with node. It does come, but this is like node compatibility, but bun prefers that thing. And you can also say that bun also prefers the SQL API that they have given. So why am I not using their SQL API and using a external library? Like, it is fine, does not matter, you can do anything. Okay, how to give file paths from the root of, yeah, from the root. File paths, shit, we can read stuff from here. File system, no, path, path, get absolute path to current entry point. Okay, bun dot main, what is this? To the current entry point. What is the current entry point? Oh, what is the current entry point? Is it the root folder or what? Console dot log bun dot uh, with a capital B, but not main. And we will do the same thing from here. Two different folders are calling the same thing. Let's see, do we get two different things or not? And also, let's remove the noise, or we can just write a separate static main, but not main. And instead of setup, we will here call main, but run back, and they give us the same thing. Shit, they literally give us the same thing. That is something. That is something. Does that help us in any way? Yeah, I guess we will have to give paths relative to the base of the folder like this. From source, go to backend, and like what else should we expect better than this? So this seems like the way to go, and this actually seems to be cool. And now let's put all these variables to, like you said, env file. That would be cool. ECMAScript standard provides something for reading file IIRC. Also, I was wondering, how will we generate game URL which other players can join? That will, we will have on the backend a signal will be sent, or a request will be sent from a front end to the backend, where a backend will like have some room created or whatever logic we end up with. And if someone else or whatever next request comes to that same room, that person will be able to join it. and all the other requests which come to the same link, to the same backend place handling the request, they will be able to see the game but not join the game. Or yeah, we will come up with something, but yeah, the backend will handle it, and we will have something on the front end to tell the backend what to do. ECMAScript. ECMAScript provides something for file reading. Uh, File had an error. Okay, that is different. File handling, input IO, file system itself is a code language and does not include built-in features, or yes, that is what I thought. These things are provided by the environments where the things run, not by this. I mean, this is fine. For that, I would have to get into Go. Like, there is no problem with this. And yes, let's write the environment variables and how to load environment variables in bun. Bun.env, that is crazy. Bun.sleep. Uh, env controls how environment variables are handled during bundling. Yes, internally, this issues defined to inject environment variables into the bundle but makes it easier to specify. Wait, I guess we would not like to add environment variables to the bundle, because if they are in the bundle and they are being shipped to the like client or something, then they would be able to access like this literally console.log process.env. But this would be backend, and client cannot run code on backend. So this is fine. Okay, shit, that is cool. Input JS would be this, and when it is bundled, instead of the name of the variable, the literal value will be put in like in place. Shit, this is in bundler. Or bundling runtime. Where does this go? One fig dot toml, Tom's only meaningful language, I think. You can also use object syntax with file. Yeah, whatever that is. But where do we put the .env file? We to put the .env file in one project, the root of your project. Okay. In a one project, the .env file should be placed in the root of the project. This is the same directory where your package.json goes. Loads variables from .env, including env.development production. Okay, shit, we will have this database for the development part, so that is cool. And before your script runs, so you do not need to use a separate package like .env. We can get things from one itself. That's cool. Location source, if placed inside the source uh, folder, file will not be processed. And if we want to access, we have to do bun.env.variable name. Go to source here .env.development. But development, if the same variables are in development file and in the production file, then how does one differentiate? How will one know if we are running in development or running in production. Okay, for production we would bundle the whole thing and then run it. So at that time one would load variables from dot production, and when we are running it, literally running, one run something, at that time variables from the development would be loaded up. I think the fact that it is fine, it's fine is not fine. How dare you not waste 3 extra days for something which has to be done in 30 minutes? Are you yeah, I will do that. .env files are generally put in root. Yep, I got to know it now. In lazy update. Hmm. Thing and cool. What are the variables? Wait, backend harpoon at work right here. Okay, these are the variables I would be needing. Paste here, and let's use some Vim micro. Our target is, I think, p equals value. This is what we want, and let's remove everything else, or maybe this, except this thing which we will do manually. Variables in dot env, like what is the format? Oh, that is not dot env, that is not env. Yes, key equal to value. Cool. And if it is a string, it should be double quotes without spaces, but if it does have spaces, then double quotes. Makes sense. Hello, yep, it is new Vim. New Vim is cool. And yes, for this, let's, and even though there is no space, let's think of a macro which we can use here, so that we run that macro on a single line, and we can convert this thing which we have into something like this. It would be faster to do this manually, but Vim, we use Vim. So we can first shit go to the start of the line to have a starting point, and we can see that yes, we can delete these two spaces first, which are same, and then go to the end of the shit. It went to the like, till the literal end. Go to the end of this word. How do we go to the end of this word? W would be the thing, but I think E. Yes, shit. Yes, E. We use E. Then we go one word to the right, and we delete till colon. Shit. Delete till colon. Okay. Then we go one word to the right, delete the current word, right, and this has double colons, double semicolons. What is double semicolon? This has these single quotes. So we have to replace them single quotes with, so select the whole line, substitute single quotes with double quotes globally, run the command, and then go to the next line and end the macro. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now let's start recording. Q A to record the macro. Go to the go to the start of the line, delete this word, go to the end of the word, one letter to the right, delete till colon, go to the right, delete this word, and let's select this whole thing, substitute colons with double colon on the whole line globally, enter, go to the next, shit, I messed up, go to the next line and end macro. Okay, now this should work, this should work. If I press, shit, it is working, but this didn't go to the next line, which is a bit sad, but okay, shit. Okay, this is not changing. Shit, this is legit not changing. Okay, I messed up somewhere. Let's record the macro again. Q A into register A. I think there is also a way. Shit, I overwrote a register A, but I think there is a way to see register contents. I guess register. Yes, let's go. And register A is right now empty. We messed up register A. Q Q A record in register A. Go to the start. Go to the start. Okay, shit. This is macro pressure. This is macro pressure. This is legit a thing. Go to the start. Delete this word. Go to the end of the word. One character to the right. Delete till colon. Go to the right. Delete. Select. Select the whole line. Substitute colon with double colon globally. Enter. And we are on the next line automatically. And end the macro. Then run the macro. Here. Cool. Run again. Cool. That is working. And shit, we would also like to remove the comma from the end. And we just have a test value here. Okay, that was a good run. Yes, macro pressure is real. Macro pressure is real. Single or double quote, does it matter? I don't know. Here they said use double quotes. Like, ChatGPT said it. The overlords. Okay, we have this, and so back. Console.log, one.env. Yes, env dot e. We should see something. One run back, and we do see the value. That is cool. And why is this red? Just in case. Database URL is one.env dot database URL. Nothing special. And then we have post. Shade in this. Ah, shade. These things have to be changed with equal to. So replace with find this, replace with equal to. Replace with equal to. And also we need to change these things into capital. How to change, not in Excel but in Naval. And again we will use a macro for this. Macro pressure, legit. If there is a difference, if there is a variable or value like this, Okay. Let's see macros just to be ignored. First comment, deletion. Now this. Shit. Okay. You wrote some crazy comment, I guess, somewhere. Shit, this thing. Remove the line VW. VW, capital VW. To remove the line. Wait, VW, what is VW? VW, select the current word starting from the current position. Then G, go to the end, globally, uppercase, W for uppercasing, and then replace this with this, capital U, GU for uppercasing. Okay, that does work. Yo, but shit, why is it not working for them completely? Okay, cool. Post equals one dot env dot post, and we have port equals one dot env dot port Puerto Rico database one dot env dot database, and the username one dot env dot username, and password is one dot env dot password. That is cool, and we are let's delete database URL, and that is some error. Argument of type is string undefined. Hmm. Do I await? No, I do not. Shit, because of TypeScript. Okay. If this is, then database URL, otherwise empty string. That does work. Okay. Change this thing with post. Post and shit, we can just like legit remove all of this. This would have worked, but it does not. Shit. If port is the only thing that is not working. String, why is port a string? Okay, int is not a thing. Number, like this. Yeah. Convert string to number. TypeScript plus. Okay, that is messed up. It's possibly undefined. That does not deter us. If this does exist, then .env dot port. Otherwise, port number 0 or 5432. Plus actually does mean something. What is plus? Unary operator. Plus, this is the fastest and most concise method for converting a clean numeric string to a number. It uses type coercion. Type coercion. Type coercion. Okay, to convert the entire string value. Unary plus operator. If we have a negative number, it will be converted into a positive number. But if we have a string, that number, before being converted into a positive number, it has to be converted into a number. So type coercion. Okay, that is cool. Or we could legit use number here. Or parse int, yes. Or parse int. Parcent with base this. Cool. Okay, so we can connect to the database and do whatever you want. Let's add something. Uh, User name string and hash password is also going to be string, right? And response file SQL, run the command here, and for this we have to use those tilde, but tilde does not work on my keyboard somehow. Tilde Swinton from Mr. Robot, from Doctor Strange. The room next door. 6.8, that is not high. Tilde in keyboard. Tilde, this thing. Shit, it is not tilde, it is backtick. Shit, backtick, not tilde. My bad. Here, it's insert into users values, insert into users username and hash password values username comma hash password and then return response. Cool. Console.log data dot add username would be Kakashi, why not? And password would be Lucy or One Piece with the correct spelling. Then run back and pending. Yes, of course, because we have to wait, await this thing, for which this has to be a async function, for which we also have to await here. Then run back and hmm, hmm, null value in column ID of relation users violates non-null. I want Postgres to generate IDs on its own. That would be cool. It works. It just works. Plus works. Parson, Kotlin. Because to use plus, first you have to convert the thing into plus. And shit, I think we can do this. Some bun test. How can we go inside bun environment like we can do with Node? Go here and just type in JavaScript and it works. Can we do this with bun? Shit. Shit. How to exit new web? To exit, press Control C again, or type dot exit. Okay. Yes. How to line JS and one env, one runtime, not env, like you can do with node. One inspect your how to get inside one runtime like we can with node runtime and run line by line with not a specific thing, but I want to write the code as we go. Add GPT with node, then just type in node and then get I get the prompt to type in vs command with run line by line like that how and I reply with one question mark. Okay, good observation. And what is this? Repel, read, evaluate, print loop. Shit. Wait, shit. Just run one. Nope, it is not working. Just running one does not work. Maybe because I'm inside a project. That is why. Run something. Run a shell script directly within one. Okay, that also does not work. One exec this shell script. It is literally taking shell commands here. Init create build y one y audit add to add a new dependency install depend wait, what is the difference between add and install dependencies for package.json, add a dependency to package. Okay, shit, this will just add the dependency that is just added to package.json, but this will add the dependency and also install it into node modules, I think, and remove and also like the short things for them. Wait, one does not work. Yes, one does not work. Okay, okay. Back to the thing. What were we doing? Kakashi One Piece. Yes, we got some error. One run back and this error that is null. Yes, so we want Postgres to add things on its own. Okay, let's go to the database and delete the database. Hello. Auto increment, yes, something like that. We can just tell Postgres what to do and it will do it for us. Control C is used for stopping standard in stream. Yep. Hello, RMRF. Yes, I think this will actually work. Remove French. Yes. Zodiac. Why is your name Zodiac? Just delete the database. If we delete the database, that is fine. We can just delete the database. Create database. Okay. And what was the main function? Main function just doesn't do anything. We will first set up. Yep. We will set up and then we will add. And yes, how to tell Postgres to auto magically give IDs to primary key in a table. Identity. Generate always as identity. Primary key. That is English. And generate always, what is this? Using identity keyword recommended. The identity keyword introduced in SQL 2003. 2003 was a nice year. Standard and adopted by PostgreSQL in the modern preferred way. It creates an implicitly associated sequence that automatically increments the value for each row. You can specify if the column is always generated or only by default when it isn't provided. Okay, shit, we can tell to always use this generated key or only use it when ID is not provided. Okay, and what is in the legacy thing? Serial. Big serial. The serial and big serial pseudotypes are traditional Postgres SQL methods. These are not true. And shit, I'm getting a call. Shit, I think my camera is working now. And someone got DDoSed. Okay. Set a broad SQL for primary key here. Okay. Uh, Wait, shit. I guess I will have to take this. Like, bro's actually calling me for the second time. Just, shit, you cannot even see the screen now. Okay, wait. I'll mute myself. And yep, I am back. Camera is also working. That is cool. We have to use generated always as identity. Did. That looks weird, but okay. Generated always as identity. And where else do we have a primary key? In games. Shit. We can store this in a register. Register A. Okay, how do how to copy text in some register in Anvil? Wait, I don't want to read it. I think we given the register name like this, or we select, then give the register name and then copy. Select register name, register. Shit. No, I don't know. I will have to see. Escape is specify the register. Type the double quote character followed by the letter. Okay, double quote and then the register. Perform your yank. Y-A-Y-Y. Okay. Double quote in register A. copy. Shit, this is not what you want to copy. This is what you want to copy. A copy. Did it copy? Registers E. Yes, it did. Nope, it didn't. Now it did. Registers, and in the register A we have the thing. Cool. And how to paste from a register. Copy, specify the register, and paste. Cool. And shit, it was being recorded. Shit. Specify the register A, paste. Select, specify the register A, paste. Do the same thing for the next ID thing that we have. Where is the, what else requires ID? Nothing else requires ID. We'll just do it anyway. Shit, this is just deleting line. Okay, now this should work. This should work. First, we will set up and then we will add data. And let's also fetch data. Yeah, let's also fetch data. Static get username string. Just from username, get the password and it. Response is await PSQL. And not insert into select from users, select all from users where username equal or equal equal. We can use is for sure, but I don't know. Equal. Let's see. Equals username, and then give back that response. Console.log await data.get small k Kakashi and one run dev one run back. Hmm. We got all this, but which part messed up? Wait, don't enter the command. Here, console.log base setup, and we also have to await this thing and console.log data setup, database setup, then data setup, and then we get the data. Now I guess you will definitely get error because maybe the database has been filled already. Users does not exist. That is crazy. Database was set up. Database was again set up. Users does not exist is crazy. Capital U, capital U. Users. So this should be there. Users should be there, but it is not there. Users is not there somehow. Yep, camera is working. That's cool. Hello, long time no see. Actually, SaaS or just for learning things. Secret for peaceful like Mr. Zodiac. So far, who knows if it turns into something profitable? Maybe not. I don't know. FTW. What is FTW? Uh, what you use, right? Uh, you can type CL, then press tab to get auto completion, I guess. Yes, I can get auto completion, but like this is how I like to prefer. I prefer to like this is how I write without auto completion. Okay, database is being set up, but we do not have the users. We do not have the users table. We do not have the users table, which you will have to look up. COY ZH clear, go back, clear, and dot slash ZSHRC. We will run this again. Shit. Dot ZSHRC. Shit. Source dot ZSHRC. What is 25 into 26? 56. Shit, that is messed up. 20 into 5. 1000. 20 into 50 is 1000. Yes, for sure. 1120. 1120 plus 300. 1420. 1456. That is correct. And now we will connect to the database through the CLI to see what data structures and everything we have. Okay, think use database Postgres. How to select our database in Postgres CLI? PSQL C C chess and list table. Shit. Table list. Shit. Data list. Data T. See all tables in Postgres. DT. Okay, there are no relations, which means nothing happened. Which means this thing just like didn't work. We have to wait for this thing. Command await operand. Okay, what is this thing when we are calling on PSQL this string, but we don't have any brackets. Okay, that is fishy. ChatGPT. What does calling a function like follows mean in TS or in JS? Function with tilde, which does not work. Shit. Right. One string content like this. What is this thing? Good question. The syntax looks weird until you realize it is not a normal function call at all. Okay, it is tagged template literal in TypeScript and in JavaScript. Let's peel. Let's peel. You already know this is just a string. Yes, we do know that. Far boring. Value is 5. This will say, and then tag. Then you write this thing. What changes when you put a function name in front? You're not calling tag like this. Instead, JavaScript does this, calls this function with a list. What exactly gets passed to the function? A function, it takes in string, a single string, and then a lot of values, or an array of values of any kind. Console.log string and console.log values. Okay, DDoSed, then internally it roughly translates to this. Okay, isn't this first thing supposed to be a string and then the second thing is supposed to be a list of values, but this is in reverse? Breakdown strings, an array of static. Okay, so I guess if we were to replace this with a list, this still does not work. We must use force. Uh, yeah, SQL paste. Cool. And shit, what is command? Yes, good question. One run back. My database wasn't even set up this time. Syntax error $1. Syntax error near $1. Who is calling $1? But let's see, do we have some tables? We do not have any tables. Yep, we don't have any tables. NVim, so like open it directly with Vim. Some language like V for the win. Ah, that is something cool. Like V and Odin don't have auto completion for Vim, and even though they have it for VS Code, they have it for VS Code, but they don't have it for Vim. So can we? It is the language which has to create their own LSP and make it available to the public. So if their LSP is available for VS Code to take and integrate into their code editor, so cannot just people make a new Vim plugin? GitHub.com, now new Vim and Vim LSP config. Let's see, here are all the new Vim config LSPs, and here Odin. Shit, there is legit. Wait, there is an LSP. We can use this LSP, Odin Language Server, OLS, by Daniel Gavin, whoever he is. And yep, and everything else is just encoding or something like that. Yes, Odin LSP, we can use this for Odin, but is this like legit? This project is still in early phases. Yes, it started 5 years ago, 2000 commits later. Like, this is active. There was a commit 2 days ago. Multiple requests from Brad Lewis Chore, Daniel Gavin. The bro does not have a profile picture. That is dope. 2013. And yes, so that is cool. Go would have never given you this error. I think tilde is used for the multi-line string and yes, we can. I think we can use tilde for multi-line string and adding variables in between. Yep, string formatting, kind of like what. See, yep, we can do as printf. I think string interpolation might be the correct word. Interpolation. What is interpolation? String interpolation. By the way, this is like two words. Okay, at least that is how I understand it. It gives highlighting, not auto completion. Okay, oh, wait, but it is, they are saying it is LSP, like legit LSP, not a syntax tree, not a tree setter, but a legit LSP. So I am just supposing that it will give legit things, like auto completion and error, at least error. LSP should give you error. Okay, so before moving on, we have to do some experimentation. Like, what is this? What is this? Language, CD type script, JavaScript, and backtick. JS. Okay. Function, or what is better is this. Is okay, and this thing taken. Yes, something like this. Value, which is string list, and okay, that seems good. Console.log stir and log value look below and test with hi. One run backtick.ts look below and empty list. This would make sense. Okay, look below and hi is the only thing. But if we remove this and just write these backticks, argument of type, this is not assignable to parameter of type string. Template is string array. Shit, yes, it was template is string. Template is string array. No problem now. And str is a template string array, and it gets okay. Shit, let's write a normal string. Substitute all these backticks with nothing. Hi, 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 and raw was this, and value is empty. But if we were to say Argument of type number is not assignable to parameter of type string. Okay. How? Shit. String only refers to a type but being used as value. How about now? That is just JavaScript and it works. Okay, now we got two things. Hi space this thing. Then the second argument is second thing in the list is this, which represents this part, and 2, which was inside this. We remove this. And now first, second. So like no in the normal string thing, first thing here, then what should be in between, what should be in between, and then what comes later, what comes later. And if the hypothesis is correct, we should we should see something similar. Yep, 2, 3, first, second, third, and raw is also legit. First, second, third. Cool. So this is what is happening there. But can we now call this normally? No, we cannot. This now requires us to only call the function like this. Okay, that is cool, I guess. Zig would be big to differ except for grammar errors. It doesn't check shit. You'd always be hammered by its compiler. Zig, I, I only know a little bit about Zig, and we have a lot of flexibility in Zig. And what I've heard, Zig is even lower level than C, which is pretty cool. Which is pretty cool. And I guess I would actually like to learn Zig, but right now, as you alluded to before, that there are a lot of updates coming out in Zig, and Zig does not even have its like mm, version 1 out. Version, version. Yes, current documentation changes. Yep, latest. Yeah, we do not have even have one single major version of Zig, so it's not cool. So there are a lot of changes and confusion. So we need backticks for Variadic. Shit, variadic functions. I have heard that name before. Is this variadic function in JS? Well, no, I have heard that functions, that term. Variadic functions that accept an arbitrary variable number of arguments. Variadic functions for a string. But if we want normal variadic functions, we would have to do something else. Uh, what was the name? Dot ts backticks.ts. Yes. I think for normal variadic function, we will just have to do stuff is going to be a list of anything and console.log. Yeah, and now stuff is just a list for each his own cinema. Console.log. See, variadic. Call this with first. What is first? One 2, and dry. And if we were to run this, yep, 1, 2, dry. That works. So this is variative function in JavaScript. And that one, the one which we were looking at before, it is more specific to strings somehow. Project. Okay, so I guess this makes somewhat sense now why we are doing this thing. And I guess this should also work. This should also work, but this didn't work. We got some error. Run back. Yes, this error. This error. What the hell is this? Syntax error at this. And we got this even before we printed database setup. So we got error here in the setup function. Return response. What is response? Response is this. Capture the value. Run back and error. Scan L line 12 in database.ts. This line. Okay, we got error on this line. That is crazy. Okay, so we are not even able to establish a connection. And then type of type of oh, run back. Okay, we are getting a port number. Type is number, which is cool, but it's not even making a connection. Character 9. And shit, it was like still line number 12, which is host now. Yes, error still came from line number 12 somehow. From database.ts. Why is the error still from line number 12, even though we changed the program? Console.log. Yeah, started setting up one run back, and yes, we started setting up, but then we got error. What is syntax error at this code? Syntax error indicates a syntax error in SQL statement you are trying to execute. So we do have a connection, but we have a syntax error in the statement that we are trying to execute. And as for being more low level, so that's kind of debatable, like the library does some memory allocation under the hood, which with zig you need to be explicit about, whereas with libc you don't need to worry. Yep, like in libc if I say char pointer name equal to name, then I do not have to tell where the name variable will be stored. But with Zig, we have to give it allocators. And there is a problem with the syntax. is here, but how do we check? Wait, yes, from the start to the end in the whole file, global. I think I'm doing the right thing. Global. This is the command, and now for the selection, new line, new line. Shit. This new line. Mm, I was trying to run a vim command to remove all of these new lines, but they just got selected, but they were not removed. This means in the whole file, run the global command, and each line that begins with a new line character, I think that is how we say new line. This just like looks at new line. I think this is shared. Yes, this means whole file. Globally, yes. Mm. Every line that begins with a new line, remove that. Shit. Okay, shit. It wasn't not removed. Globally, every line that begins with a new line. So these are selected. Now the command which must run on these lines. Delete and vim commands. Globally, for each line that begins with a new line, run the delete command. Okay, that was it. Delete command. If that was the problem with the syntax. Let's game, let's rating. Do we have some tables? We do not have any relations. We were to copy this, paste, run. Always is error prone. Foreign key user makes sense. Shit, because this is users, and at every place else we are saying user, not users. Substitute user with shit. Substitute user which has like opening bracket after it with user opening bracket globally. Okay, that seems to work, I guess. Now run this and error. Syntax error near this line 5. Line 5 seems good enough. Always syntax error at or near always int generated always as identity. I think that was the thing which was suggested. Generated always as identity primary key, but it doesn't work. It's also faster to do it manually at the point ATP. Yes, but I want to do things with neuron. Generated always as identity primary key. Well, let's go line by line or maybe query by query. There was a rogue character at the start. Cool. Okay, shit. Syntax error. Why is this thing like not acceptable? Syntax error here. What is the syntax error? Just this. Shit, comma. Do they not want us to write comma after this? Okay. Always. Shit. Mm, Rapid games does not exist. Bullet games. Blitz games does not exist. What exists? Blitz games does exist. Does user exist? Users already exists. That is cool. Does friends exist? Probably it does. Yep. Does this exist? No. Always. What is the error? Int GENERATED. GENERATED always has identity primary key. Shit, what int? ID int. Shit, okay, shit, that makes sense. That does make sense. Okay, I think hopefully this will work now. And we can also delete the database. Delete and create the database. And I guess the camera is like, no, camera is still working. That is pretty cool. Your messages have been deleted. Yep, that was the mistake. My bad. Stupid mistake. Baka. Run back. Okay. Started setting up, but still was not able to set up. Okay, no relations were set up. Okay, there was no problem. So how can there be a syntax error when there is literally no problem? Every table was created. Yep. So let's skip the setup part and we will try to add some data and then we will get that data. Run back and data setup. Nope, we got error. Empty data setup. Data was added, that is cool, but then we got error. This is unknown. Okay, this is not the right thing. Uh, Comparison is SQL query. This is we can use is like literally I equal to single equal to, not double equal to. Run back and that is cool. That is legit cool. That is legit cool. User number one, user number two. After getting the response, we will not do this. We will say response res equals the response, and I guess we have to do res dot for each row user dot log row and then back Yep, that is cool. We are able to add things and remove things, and the problem is, or maybe the curious thing is, why is this not ending? Because the connection is still running, so we have to end the connection. Okay, we have actually made progress. We can communicate with the database, which is pretty cool. We can communicate with the database. Yeah, nice. Now it is actually nice. Uh, Postgres library, not the inbuilt one, but the other one, the library one, library. Simply import or use elsewhere and queries connections. Yes, connection and then deletion. Await SQL this thing. Yep. How to end connection. Change log, reserve, real time subscribe. Maybe there is a method and which will be SQL dot end end. Yes, end. So after this, we will do data dot end. Maybe that will end the connection. Let's go. That is ending the connection. So shit, that is cool. That is cool. That is cool. And what are the creative decisions that we have made here? Why skill draw? The creative decisions are that we are going to use a class which will have static methods instead of having a bunch of different functions which we will individually have to import, or maybe we can just import as like import everything from this file, but this just looks a bit cleaner. And can we do here declaration and then definition later on? Functions in and then define later on. Declare at some point and then define later on. Define later on. Prototype, prototype, prototype. Define a function later and attach it to the prototype, but we do not have the advantage of having the function declared here like we do in C++, so that we can just look at the class definition and look at all the functions that this class is going to have, but we don't have to worry about the definition part. But here, if you want to define the functions outside the class, then we do not have the declaration inside the class. Calculator dot subtract. Yeah, C sharp. First class function. First class, I think functions which take class or classes which take function as arguments. Okay. Setup is shit. Setup is not cool. Setup was not working. We set it up this manually. Yeah, I'll look into it. But now let's work on CRUD operations. We the tables that we have are database visualizer draw.sql. Your line diagram. Yep, we will write CRUD operations for all these tables. And then we can actually start working on a backend which uses those CRUD internal operations and provides external APIs. And we also have to take care of authentication. Share, yes. We also have to take care of authentication, for which we need tokens and for which we have to add more things to our database. Okay, how does authentication work? Do we keep the JWST in the memory? No, we do not. We keep it in the database, in the LegTR database. So, yep, we will keep it in the database. Yeah, we will keep it in the database. Shit. You made a parser to implement it. The basics are done, so is my knowledge. And now the rougher parts are left for compiler. There is a compiler design book by someone, and I can build your own compiler. There is a book which I wanted to read. There is a woman who wrote that book. Yes, writing a C compiler. This one by Nora Sandler. Yes, writing. You didn't. Yeah, PDF. This book. I think maybe this might be helpful. I don't know. I think Postgres has some plugins for authentication. Postgres has some plugins for authentication. With those plugins, maybe would be for to restrict who is able to get direct access to the database. But we want authentication for should yes, there is a difference between authentication and authorization. And yes, I guess Postgres gives authentication to who is able to access the database, but we do not want to make direct database queries from the front end if that is the thing that Postgres gives. Authentication methods, libraries, plugins supports a variety of authentication methods to verify client identity, which are configured in this config file. The specific method used for a connection is selected based on the client's host address and database being accessed and the username requested. So it seems like password-based authentication. SHA-256, this is the most secure method. Operating system-based authentication using a modern challenge response mechanism to prevent password sniffing and security. So this authentication is to restrict who is able to get access to the database, but we are not going to give access to the database to the user anyway. Yeah, so we will have to implement our own authentication. I think even Superbase uses that for providing auth features. The authors are Turing award winners and of course Turing award winners. Yo, piracy on top. I have a compiler design book by Pearson. David Pearson. Is it David Pearson? Eh, David Pearson. Let's shit no. Uh, Compiler design. I knew a person who is very good at compiler design. Okay, I messed up David Patterson, but he is in hardware. Yes, he is in hardware, not compiler design. Com Chris Latner is pretty cool. Chris Latner, he he made the Swift programming language. He created Clang. Clang is like his baby, or it's known for LLVM. LLVM, yeah, he created the whole LLVM thing, Swift programming language, and now he is working on Python after writing a compiler for C and C++. He is working with Python now. That is like his thing. Awards. He seems soft. He didn't even get a Turing award. And doctoral advisor Vikram. Vikram Advi. Publication. Share Pearson publication. My bad. Yes, he is good. Ah, okay. Research, reading research papers is cool. And even Supabase uses that for providing auth features. Who brought him into that? Shit. He was saying that in like the Lex Friedman podcast, I think that he wanted to go away, but his teacher stopped him and said, work on this instead. Maybe you might find this pretty cool. And he started working on it, and then he did find it pretty cool. I think that was how it went. That is not your concern. Wait. Even Supabase used that for providing auth features. It seems to me that the auth feature is for who gets access to the database. Hmm. We'll have to do our own auth, and for auth, we will have to do our own. So the user will come, they will write their username, password, and I think with this we should store their JWT and their JWT token. This is what most people use, so we'll also use this. No fight here. We will use JWT token, and whenever a new request comes, they will send the JWT as the cookie. And how is the database going to share it? They can wait, JWT stores information, so we can uh, take the username and the hashed password, and we can take the username and the hashed password and given to us by the user and compare them with the database, and then create a JWT which contains the username and the hashed password, which contains the username, and we will compare that JWT whenever we get it as a cookie. We will check, we will like open the thing, and we will take the admin or the person ID from that. I think I'm just messing this up. Wait. Professional. Let's ask someone professional. Okay, so the plan is this. Plan is this. User comes. COMES. User comes and they enter their username and password, which goes to the back end. Backend takes the username and password Uttar Pradesh UP and goes to the database, checks with the database if this username and this password, right? And yeah, that is cool. After authenticating the user, the backend will create a JWT token, which is just the user ID and maybe even user name, and these two things will be encapsulated and turned into a single string called the JWT token. The user will have this, and whenever the user then wants to do some request to the backend, the user will send this JWT. And I think the JWT library provides us a way so that if we have a JWT token, we can verify if this token was made by us or is like something bad. And if this token was made by us, then we can just extract from this the user ID and do the work which for which the user is asking the backend to do. I think that is cool. implementing uh, multi-pass compiler. First pass would be find the memory address. Second pass would be for changing the jump instruction to the address, and then others for optimization. I mean, okay, like th- uh, yes, that I think there is a okay, at least to me, there seems like there is a big difference in actually implementing and theorizing this. It is very cool to theorize, and it is very fun at times, not always, at times. But then to actually implement, there are just a lot of bugs, a lot of things which will get in the way. And when you do actually get this implemented, that would be cool. Like I would like to read it. That would be cool. And I would hope that I do understand what you have written. Okay. And yes, so let's tell this whole pipeline to Mr. GPT and see if it is like okay or not. For on my side, the user will come and enter their user name and password, and then if they don't have an account, then we will will buyers will be created and saved in the database, and GWT token will be created by the backend, which will contain the username and the user ID and send that to the user, and on any subsequent requests. What is subsequent? Subsequent. Subsequent. QUENT. Subsequent seems to be subsequent requests. The user will send that JWT, and the backend will extract the ID, and the backend will check using the JWT library whether it was created by it or not, and if not, and if yes, then the ID and user ID and username will be extracted from it, and used to complete the request made by the user. And if no match, then error, arrow, arrows. Working flow, but naive. Working but naive. Okay, it will function, but it has a real security and architectural problem that you should understand before you ship it. Okay. We will ship it. I will break it down clearly, then tell you what is wrong. Okay, you described, restated precisely. User submits username plus password. Backend, if user exists, logs them. If user does not, then auto create account. Backend creates a JWT containing username ID. JWT is signed by backend and sent to the client. Client sends JWT on every request. Yes, backend verifies JWT signature, extract user ID and username uses them to fulfill the request. If invalid, then error. That is the model. Now, let's be brutally honest. The big conceptual mistake. If they don't have an account, just create one. This is not authentication. This is simply sign up. Okay. This creates multiple problems. Typo in username, new account created. Okay, if there is a typo in the username, then new account would be created. Attacker can create infinite accounts, which is messed up. No user intent separation. Login versus sign up. Oh, it is taking the thing literally. ChatGPT is taking the thing actually literally. No chance to enforce password rules. I think we can add email verification, which would be cool, and we can get libraries for it. More about theorizing. Implementation is not really implementation, I think, is the hard part. Thinking about most efficient implementation is the hardest part. Most efficient implementation is the hardest part. Huh. Like thinking about how to efficiently parse is harder than writing parser itself. Writing parser has its own difficulties. Uh, okay, in competitive programming also, speaking from some experience, coming up with an after you have come up with some algorithm in the like after reading the questions, then writing it is also like another big task, and it is not very fair to say. This one is actually more fun at times, and this is also more fun at times, and they have their own difficulties. So yeah, it is not pretty cool to compare which one is which, even though I said that theorizing is easier and fun, but they both have their own mistakes. Because in at least while you are implementing, you do have something to work with. You literally have some code and you are getting errors. But with theorizing, you might go blank. And if someone is not able to properly convert theory to code, not in first try, in general, then the person should seriously need to work on their basic, at least according to me. Shit, I mean, uh, yeah, but there are also other factors. Apart from the competence, there is mindset factor. A person might be able to like come up with the thing, but not be able to write it because they think that they cannot write it, even though they can write it. And yeah, that is like a separate argument. Okay. JWT part, mostly right, but missing critical details. What you got? Right, JWT is signed, not encrypted. Backend verifies signature, confirms token authenticity. Then token contains identity claims, stateless auth, no DB lookup or request. Yep, that is solid. What you missed? Password handling. You didn't mention hashing, which yes, I didn't. But we will add. JWT should not be your source of truth. JWT answers only one question. Was this token issued by me and is it still valid? That should be good enough idea. Bad idea. JWT says user this, user 42. User 42 can do anything. User 42 can. Good idea. Okay. Huh. Says user ID is this. Then user can do anything. User 42 can do. Okay. JWT says user ID equals 42. Load user permissions, roles, check access. Okay, after authenticating who the person is, then we have to authorize what that person can do. Okay, yep. JWT must expire, and when it does expire, we will send a new JWT to the person. Short-lived access 15 to 30 minutes. No, that's the person would have to re-sign in. You are missing refresh tokens. Without refresh tokens, you must re-log in constantly, or you make access tokens long-lived, which is bad because someone might get access to them. Okay, we will get refresh tokens, JWT payload discipline. Okay, I guess so. First of all, we have to add now authentication stuff, which I do not want to write right now, right now. Practicing and working on fundamentals. Yep. And lol, I have written so many shit. Okay, I have not written anything. I have not made projects. I only made simple projects like the one I have made on stream. That is, I've practically learned the code. Lol. Yep. I might need to see whether to use array or hash maps or lookup table and how to store, which is cool, symbol table. Thing is, thinking is more complex and required than writing. Okay, I am not going to make a counter argument because you actually have written things. I have not written things, so I'm in no position to make an argument. More about thinking, writing so far in language design, I believe programming language, but yeah, shit, I can like block you. I can make you a moderator. Shit, mod, you can become mod. Okay, and yep, for today, I guess this would be it. So then we will have to write authentication, which I guess I will do today with someone on Discord. Yep. And yep. So that would be it for today. We established a connection from JavaScript to our database, and now we have to work on authentication. And yep, that would be it. Thank you for being here. Bye.